After Steve Smith sent the hosts on a leather hunt on the opening day of the second test at Lords, England bounced back and on the second day with wickets to bundle out Aussies for 416. Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett then put England in control with some sublime batting. At a certain stage when England were 181 for 1, things looked really rosy. But then Australia came fighting back with 3 wickets at the back end of the day. But the biggest problem at the moment is Nathan Leon. Is he not going to participate in the test match any further after the injury that he picked up yesterday? We are going to discuss that and more in this session on India.com Cricket Country. And to do that, we have with us Jaideep Ghosh, who's a senior sports journalist. We have with us Biswajit Jha, who is an author and an ex-sports journalist. We have Kaushik, we have Utkarsh, we also have Ashutosh joining us in this session. Jaideep, I'm going to start with you over here. Looks
Mhm.
like England have the advantage. They are trailing by 139 runs. They still have 6 wickets in hand over here, and there are still 3 days left in the Test match. What do you think? It's safe to say England have their noses in front.
I won't say noses in front, but yeah, definitely a little bit of an edge in the sense that when they finished day one at I think 336 for five, Australia was threatening to score at least 500, 600 runs. To stop them and get them out for 416, I think was a phenomenal job by the English bowlers in the second day, and thereafter the opening stand was brilliant. Little bit of a hiccup as you just said towards the end, but yeah, I think. They are they are on a strong wicket to put it mildly. Yeah, Nathan Leon's absence might become a major concern. So at the moment, England would be the happier of the two teams.
Biswajit, I know that the fact that you're traveling and I think you're in Bhutan, you were there in Bhutan or something, you have been pretty busy off late. But still, I'm assuming you know the score and what's happening in and around the Ashes at the Lords. Which is the English bowler who impressed you the most in the first innings?
It was Tongue. He bowled really well, and Robinson also bowled well. And England, they pointed out that England bowled pretty well in the morning of the second day to to something back from the Australians, and they after second day's play, I think it's not, you can say that England is ahead of Australia, because you have to remember that England has a long tail also, because Moin Khan is not playing in this match. So if they lose like 2 wickets, 2 quick wickets, then England will not stretch the lead ahead like of Australia. They may score another 150 runs, but it is like even Stevens for me.
It's even Stevens for you at the moment, right, Biswajit? Kaushik,
Yeah.
you think the English team was a little defensive on day one? They could have done something differently to maybe tighten their noose around Steven Smith and get him out. You think the strategies were right, or they could have done something differently?
See, I mean, on day one, England tried everything they had in the armory. I mean, against a batsman of Steve Smith's caliber, when he's on song, you can't stop him. You have seen in this test, you have seen this in the past also. So I think England, whatever strategies they had, they tried to execute them. They got some help, they got some wickets, but the way they came back strongly on the second day, picking up those last few wickets with giving just 100 odd runs, is truly phenomenal. And the currently the states they are at now, totally agree with Jadip sir and Biswit sir also, that England have slight edge at this moment. I mean, we still have 3 days left, but I would say England still have the edge with Harry Brook and Ben Stokes batting. They are all set in the crease. They have played a good amount of balls. It will be important. The first session on day three will be very important for England. If they do not lose any wicket in the first session, or even the first hour on day three, then I think England will bat a little longer, as Jadip and as Vishwis said, England have a long tail. So I think England are slightly ahead of Australia at this moment.
उत्कर्ष लगता है कि Australia, they are a little behind in this test match, but of course they have got the arsenal to come fighting back. कल आपने एक स्ट्रैटेजी देखा ऑस्ट्रेलिया का, वेयर दे वर गोइंग शॉर्ट, दे वर bowling शॉर्ट एट दीज इंग्लिश बैटर्स, जो थोड़ा बहुत इनको फायदा भी हुआ. दे गॉट अ कप थ्री विकेट्स एट द बैक एंड ऑफ द डे, probably the third session. So then you also saw Ben Stokes adapting into a defensive style of play. Ben Stokes, who usually looks to attack, he was ready to take those blows. है ना? तो लगता है आज इन लोगों का स्ट्रैटेजी थोड़ा बदलेगा इंग्लैंड का, वेयर बेन स्टोक्स बीइंग द एग्रेसिव गाय ही इज, ही लाइक टू गिव इट बैक टू द ऑसीज. आपको क्या लगता है, कोई चेंज ऑफ स्ट्रैटेजी होगा, या फिर इंग्लैंड विल लुक टू accumulate the runs and put as much pressure as possible on Australia, probably even bat them out of the test match because they anyways trailing. जब एडवांटेज है, why not use it? उत्कर्ष, आपको क्या लगता है?
आई विल फील बेन स्टोक जो है थोड़ा मतलब कंजर्वेटिव खेलेंगे, बिकॉज जो रूट अब आउट हो चुका है, तो उन्हें कोई ऐसा प्लेयर चाहिए जो स्टिक अराउंड करे और अदर प्लेयर्स को मतलब खिलाना शुरू करे. तो बेन स्टोक्स जो है अभी भी कंजर्वेटिव रहेंगे, बिकॉज उनके पास अभी जॉनी बेस्टो आना बाकी है, ऑली रॉबिन्सन भी थोड़े रन चिप इन कर सकते हैं, स्टुअर्ट ब्रॉड भी चिप इन कर सकते हैं. तो बेन स्टोक्स कोशिश यही करेंगे कि वो एकदम एंड तक स्टिक रहे और जो अदर प्लेयर्स है वो एग्रेसिव अप्रोच करे. एंड आपको पता है हैरी ब्रुक जो है वो कंजर्वेटिव अप्रोच के साथ नहीं खेल सकते, वो प्रॉपर एग्रेसिव बैटर है. बट बेन स्टोक्स अपना रोल शिफ्ट कर सकते, वो एग्रेसिवली भी खेल सकते हैं और कंजर्वेटिव भी खेल सकते हैं. तो प्लान में यही चेंजेस रहेंगे कि बेन स्टोक जो है एक हैंड होल्ड करेंगे और बाकी जो अदर बैटर्स होंगे वो एग्रेसिवली अप्रोच करेंगे कि जल्दी से जल्दी हम डिफिशिट खत्म कर दें.
द थिंग इज आशुतोष, पता है यहाँ पर फनी क्या है? बिकॉज बेन स्टोक्स इज अ वेरी अग्रेसिव प्लेयर. ही इज नॉट समबडी हु गॉट अ डिफेंसिव बोन इन हिज बॉडी एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. तो आपको लगता है बेन स्टोक्स एक्चुअली विल कर्ब हिज नेचुरल इंस्टिंक्ट्स एंड प्ले अकॉर्डिंग टू द सिचुएशन, व्हाट्स द आस्क ऑफ द आवर, वो वैसे ही खेलेगा? आशुतोष, आपको क्या लगता है? ओपनिंग रिमार्क्स.
बेन स्टोक्स के लिए इंग्लैंड के लिए जरूरी है बेन स्टोक्स लास्ट तक रहे. उत्कर्ष ने जो बात की बिल्कुल सही है. बेन स्टोक्स को पता है कि अगर वो स्टिक अराउंड करेंगे लास्ट तक तो कहीं ना कहीं वो प्लस में रन क्रिएट कर पाएंगे. हैरी ब्रुक्स उस
लेकिन
रोल में
आपको
नहीं
थोड़ा
आते.
ताज्जुब नहीं हो रहा है व्हेन यू सी बेन स्टोक्स प्लेइंग द एंकर रोल? बिकॉज हम बेन
नहीं,
स्टोक्स के साथ
इसके इसके
एसोसिएट
पहले
करते हैं
इसके पहले भी दो
एग्रेसिव
बार कर
बॉलर्स
चुके हैं.
क्रिकेट.
मतलब फाइनल में दो बार किया हुआ है. अगर आपको याद हो 2019 का फाइनल था, वहां पे एंकर के रोल में उन्होंने प्ले किया है. लास्ट टाइम जब वो T20 वर्ल्ड कप जीते थे उसमें भी उन्होंने एंकर का रोल प्ले किया. तो ऐसा नहीं उनके लिए कुछ न्यू है वो चीज. बट ऑफकोर्स जैसा बेसबॉल को लेकर इंट्रोड्यूस उन्होंने किया, तो ऑफकोर्स अगर वही उस चीज से नहीं करेंगे तो कहीं ना कहीं वो क्वेश्चन उठेंगे सरप्राइजिंग पैकेज के तौर पे. लेकिन टीम को जरूरत है उनकी और उन्हें पता है कि अगर वो लास्ट तक स्टिक अराउंड करेंगे तो इंग्लैंड के पास जो एज है वो और ज्यादा स्ट्रांग होगा. नाथन लायन उनके पास ऑलरेडी नहीं है ऑस्ट्रेलिया के पास, तो बॉलिंग उनकी वीक हुई है. अगर आप देख लें जो फोर्थ ऑप्शन के तौर पे जिस तरह उन्होंने कैमरून ग्रीन और ट्रेविस हेड और स्मिथ को यूज किया, बहुत इफेक्टिवली यूज नहीं कर पाए हैं कमिंस अभी तक. तो तीन बॉलर के बेसिस पे आप इंग्लैंड को डोमिनेट तो नहीं कर सकते, खासकर ऐसी कंडीशंस पे. तो ऑफकोर्स बेन स्टोक्स का होना जरूरी है, और अगर वो स्टिक अराउंड कर गए तो इंग्लैंड फिर से सीरीज बराबर कर लेगा इस मैच में.
Jaideep, the Lord's ground, it has a slope. So whenever
Right.
you have a slope, there are high chances that you're going to get the ball to drift. The off spinners, they
Mm,
will get the ball
mm,
to drift, and also
mm.
there'll be a little bit of bounce. And you never know, in the fourth and the fifth day, the spinner would come into play. How big a loss is this for Australia that probably Nathan Lyon is out of the equation itself? How big a setback is this?
Yeah, irrespective of what slope there is or isn't, I think Nathan Lyon's absence is a massive loss for the Australian attack. Because eventually the thing is that the way the England have gone about things, they have gone and opted to field first, which means that they're going to bat last. So that becomes a little bit of a problem, because then thereafter, I mean, on the last day of any test match, there would be a little bit of a more help for the spinners, and right now that is something that they are going to lose out on, because all of them together can't match with Nathan Lyon. If that I mean, all the standby bowlers that you have, major loss, I think, by my equations.
Exactly. Jaideep made a very good point, Biswajit, over here, where he said that come the fourth innings, the ball has to, do something when the spinner has it in his hands. So now with Nathan Lyon in all probability out of the test match, how big a setback is it for Australia? Because Lyon is somebody over the years, we have seen him pick up 5, 6, 7 wickets on the trot. This guy is splendid. He's probably the best of the era. So how big a setback is this?
Yes, it's a colossal loss. The thing is that the difference between these two teams, if you see closely, is Nathan Lyon, because they have the very good pace attack, and England also have very good pace attack. They have very good whatever batsmen they have. I think in batting department, Australia they are little bit higher in term of batting depth, but in term of everything, it's pretty close. The only difference is that the quality of spin the Australians have, and here actually they are not. Will not be able to utilize that in this innings and in the fourth innings when the ball will turn and probably bounce, and that's a huge loss for Australia. But again, knowing Australian team, and that's a mental setback also when you don't have your best spinner, you won't be operating for on the fourth innings. It's a huge mental setback. But knowing Australia, they will try to use their whatever they have right now, because
You
they
see,
can't.
Even Travis Head can actually roll his arms over. He can
No,
probably
Ankit, in,
bowl.
in, in, in test matches, rolling arms are not enough. Actually,
Nahi,
you
nahi,
have to
rolling
get
arms got
proper.
you wickets. Rolling arms got
No,
England
it
wickets.
may it may it
Joe
it
Root,
it
Joe
may
Root.
it, no, it may get you wickets here and there, but consistently it's very difficult to bowl for a non-regular
For
bowler
England
to
now, it is
bowl.
about just this next 3 days and Australia.
No,
So they are
next
not.
3 days the spin will come into play more than first 2 days. This time actually, and Australia will bowl on the fourth innings. So they have already, if Nathan Lyon will not play, and they have already lost a big weapon of their armory. So I think that England have this advantage, but knowing Australia, they won't sit and we have lost the land, and we won't be able to fight. I think Australia will fight, and I think in the morning also, when day three morning, when they will start bowling, if they take two more wickets, they are on the tail of the Australian batting, and I think that at the end of the day that Australia will fight, and England will also have an advantage that they don't have to face Nathan Lyon on the fourth innings.
Of course, England will be at an advantage because they don't have to face Nathan Leon in the final essay. But Kaushik, let's just talk about the moment of the game from yesterday, which made a lot of headlines on social space. There was this controversial catch which Steve Smith took to send Joe Root back in the heart. That catch, some felt, wasn't clean. He had actually grasped it, it touched the ground, and even after replays were taken, probably the third umpire felt there is not enough doubt to overturn the decision. So the decision stayed. Joe Root had to walk back for only 10. How big a moment in the match was that? Do you think Joe Root was actually out? Because clearly on social media, you can see images where you can see the ball touching the ground when he's taking the catch. What is your opinion on this? Was Joe Root out or was he not? Did Steve Smith cheat?
Uh, Ankit, this reminds me of Cameron Green. I mean, just few days back against India in the WTC final. I mean, going by the visuals of Steve Smith taking the catch, I think the ball was grounded before it went to his hands, and see these type of umpiring blinders, maybe you can say third umpiring blinders. These things happen. You can't help. I mean, at this moment, Joe, that episode is gone. Yes, it is a huge moment in the match, but that episode is gone, and England have to look forward with, just as said, with Harry Brook and Ben Stokes. As I said, the first hour will be very crucial. So what is gone, that is gone. We can't change that. We can't bring Joe Root back in the game again in this innings. So what is gone, that is gone. England need to look forward. And one thing I want to add, I totally agree with Biswit sir that Nathan Lyon is the difference between these two teams so far, because as per stats, Nathan Lyon has taken 9 wickets in this Ashes so far, which is the highest among all the bowlers in both teams. And Steve Smith yesterday said after the match that his injury doesn't look good. He probably he is out of this test match, and if things go wrong, he might be out of the series also.
That would be massive, Kaushik. We are surely not hoping that happens. उत्कर्ष, आपने मैच देखा था, वो कैच आपने भी देखा था. क्या आप कौशिक से सहमत थे that was जो रूट वाज नॉट आउट, या फिर आपको लगता है जो अंपायर ने बोला है, अंपायर ने कुछ तो सोचा होगा that conclusive evidence नहीं है to overturn the decision and hence the decision stays. I mean the umpire is not overruled, the on field umpire. आपको क्या लगता है, वो आउट था या नॉट आउट था, या फिर स्टीव स्मिथ को पता भी था and he was still cheating?
सी, मैं ये तो नहीं बोलूंगा कि स्टीव स्मिथ चीटिंग कर रहे थे, बिकॉज हीट ऑफ द मोमेंट में उन्हें भी नहीं पता चला होगा कि वो बॉल जो है ग्राउंड पे टच हुई है कि नहीं, बिकॉज वो तुरंत उनने कैच उठाया था और उसके बाद उनने फिर जंबल भी करा था, फिर उनने अपने चेस्ट के थ्रू उनने बॉल को कंट्रोल करा था. बट हाँ, आजकल हमने ये चीज देखी है कि जो थर्ड अंपायर है वो बॉलिंग टीम को ज्यादा फेवर करने लग गए हैं. हमने कैमरन ग्रीन के कैच में भी देखा था, इनकंक्लूसिव एविडेंस था बट स्टिल बॉलिंग टीम को फेवर हुआ था. और हमने यहाँ पे भी देखा है कि थर्ड अंपायर ने बॉलिंग टीम को फेवर दिया. तो मैं ये नहीं बोलूंगा कि स्टीवन स्मिथ ने चीटिंग करी है, कुछ भी करो, बट हाँ, मेरे हिसाब से जो कैच था वो नॉट आउट था, बिकॉज हमें क्लियर एविडेंस दिख रहा था जो दोनों उनके जो फिंगर्स है उसके बीच में से जो है बॉल ना ग्राउंड में टच हो रही थी. बट आई डोंट नो अंपायर्स आजकल इतना जल्दी क्यों क्विक डिसीजंस लेते, इतना रिप्लेस लेते. और इवन अगर कोई भी अनकंक्लूसिव डिसीजन होता है वो मोस्टली बैटिंग टीम को फेवर करते थे. बट आजकल कुछ टाइम से जब से कैमरन ग्रीन का कैच के बाद कंट्रोवर्शियल डिसीजन है, उसके बाद से बॉलिंग टीम को ज्यादा फेवर होने लग गया है.
आई थिंक उत्कर्ष, यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट ओवर हियर. हाँ, ये हाल फिलहाल में ये ट्रेंड काफी देखने को मिल रहा है. एंड यू नो दीज हैव बीन गेम चेंजिंग डिसीजंस. इवन आईसीसी, आई मीन डब्ल्यूटीसी फाइनल जो था, द कैमरन ग्रीन कैच, दैट प्रॉब्ली चेंज द कोर्स ऑफ द मैच. एंड इवन यहाँ पर हैड जो रूट स्टक अराउंड, जो रूट इज अ प्लेयर इन फॉर्म, हैड ही स्टक अराउंड, क्या पता इंग्लैंड बाय नाउ दे वुड हैव बीन एब्सोल्युटली इन कंट्रोल ऑफ द मैच. अभी तो एब्सोल्यूट कंट्रोल नहीं मिला है, बट अगर रूट होता तब एब्सोल्यूट कंट्रोल मिल जाता है. आशुतोष, क्या लगता है आपको, अंपायर कहीं गलती किया है यहाँ पर एंड ही शुड बी पीनलाइज्ड बाय द आईसीसी? नहीं तो ये तो होते ही रहेगा.
ऑफ कोर्स अंकित, मुझे लगता है कि इसको बीसीसीआई को लेके इसको रूल क्लियर करना होगा. पहले बेनिफिट डाउट ऑफ बैट्समैन को मिलता था, अब ये डाउट आपको फील्डिंग टीम को मिल रहा है. कहीं ना कहीं वो चीज बहुत क्लियरली नहीं दिख रही है कि अगर आप डिसीजन की बात करें तो उस पर जो सवाल उठ रहे हैं किस बेसिस पे आप दे रहे हो, बेस क्या है उस चीज का. अगर आप व्यूज में देख रहे हो तो आपको कहीं ना कहीं लग रहा है कि नहीं टच है, और उसके बाद आप कह रहे हो नहीं जस्ट बिकॉज ऑन फील्ड अंपायर का डिसीजन था उसके बेसिस पे हमने लिया, तो कहीं ना कहीं वो चीज है. और ऐसे रिजल्ट कहीं टर्निंग पॉइंट भी प्रूफ हो सकते हैं. आपने ही कहा और इस चीज से मैं एग्री भी कर रहा हूँ, इन द केस अगर रूट इस मैच में आउट ना होते और 100 क्रिएट कर देते तब कहीं ना कहीं इंग्लैंड पूरा मैच का रिजल्ट चेंज हो सकता था. जिस जिस चीज की हम बात कर रहे हैं एज, हम सीधे सीधे तब क्लियरली बोल सकते थे इंग्लैंड के पास एज है, वो मैच में डोमिनेट कर रहे हैं पूरी तरीके से. और अगर आईसीसी इस चीज को नहीं करेगा तो आने वाले बड़े इवेंट्स में भी इसका असर पड़ेगा, क्योंकि ये जो छोटी छोटी गलतियां हैं या छोटे छोटे जो मिसकंसेप्शन बनते हैं ये मैच चेंज करते हैं. 2019 के वर्ल्ड कप में भी आपने देखा किस तरीके से एक फाइनल का एक डिसीजन पूरे मैच का रिजल्ट इधर उधर कर गया. तो आपको क्लियर करना होगा, नहीं कर पाएंगे आप तो जिस टीम को विकेट मिल रहा है ऑफकोर्स उसके लिए तो फायदेमंद है, लेकिन दूसरी टीम के लिए वो नुकसान होगा, वो फेयर नहीं होगा. तो कहीं ना कहीं आपको उस चीज को फेयर करने के लिए नियम को और ज्यादा जो है क्लियरिफाई करना होगा.
Without a doubt, there'll be something still on the pitch. I mean, the first hour would have something for the bowlers. Jaideep, what should be England's strategy over here? Block, 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 pick boundaries of the loose deliveries, or come a little hard at the Australians, not allowing the bowlers to settle, and probably in the process lose a couple of wickets, which is more important for England right now? Holding on to their wickets, or going on the attack, pressing a little hard, walking the talk, doing the baseball, continuing the baseball template. What do you have to say about that?
I think for any batting side, the first hour of any day is something of a thing that they need to address. And given that now Australia are without their ace spinner, the job will be left to the fast bowlers to get the wicket early on. So definitely there will be more of an attack from the Australian fast bowlers. So they'll have to play out the first hour. Not it's not like they're going to block everything. That's not given in their psyche. they're going to go for their runs, but not maybe at the kind of rate that they can do later in the afternoon. Because once you've taken care of the first hour and a half, after that the batting will become a much relatively much easier. Third day, moving day as it's called, it's going to be a run scoring day. And yeah, I mean, as for Australia, it's now left to Pat Cummins and his boys to really come to the party and make up for the gap that Nathan Leon has left. I think first hour will be quite critical, and I get a feeling that it might just end up being a very even kind of setup.
Forget about the moving day. This test match has been moving at the rate of knots.
Right.
Biswajit, I'd like to wrap it up. What is your final say? Like, what are you expecting England's approach to be? Australia, are they still going to continue peppering these English batters with the short pitch stuff? What's it going to be the strategy for the first session? Specifically, let's stick to the first session.
First station actually England would look not to lose wickets. Basically, they if they lose 2 wickets, I think they will be on in the tail. So I think that Australia will look to get 2 3 wickets at least in the first session, and they would try to like try to end this England innings within 350 or maybe within 400. Then they would bat, and they would bat actually. They would try to score at least 300 runs or close to 300 runs. They would take chance in the fourth innings. Fourth innings you never know. We feel that fourth innings in the fourth innings generally the spinners get more patches, but sometimes fast bowlers also can be lethal on these wickets also on the fourth innings wickets. So basically it's about the if England survive the first session basically and score relatively like 3 runs per over, and then England will later on dominate the batting, and they can score like 50 60 more runs than Australia, and then Australia will bat, England will take chance. But this match will hit can be a draw also, given the bowling given Nathan Lyon is not in the side, so it can be a possibility that match will end up in draw, and any side can still win from this position.
We cannot exactly say that England, they are in the box seat, but surely they have their noses in front at this point in time. Yet what we understand after this session on Facebook and Twitter, what we understand is that the first session is going to be crucial for both the sides. Both teams will come in with new strategies. It's going to be very intriguing to see how it pans out the first session. Thank you for joining me in this session on India.com Cricket Country. Stay tuned with this website for all the latest across sports. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.